Hello and welcome back to the Genesis Designs and Modelcraft bench, and I've got a nice one for you today. So the other week or so ago I got a package from Arma Hobby after my build of the Mustang kit, the P51B Shark Tooth Pony. I was contacted by a member of the team at Arma. They wanted to share the videos of Shark Tooth Pony and wanted to ask my permission, which of course I'm fine with. Some conversation ensued with a lovely young man by the name of Greg. I'm just going to call him Greg, okay, and please don't jump on me for being a useless British person, but I had some conversation with him about the correct way to pronounce his name, because it's got multiple Z's in it, and the correct way is to say gr, sh, egg, Orsh, and I can't do it. My British speech palette just can't cope with that, so I'm sorry I can't say it properly, so I'm just going to stick with Greg. So after some conversation, Greg asked if I would like it if they sent me some kits, and asked if I had the new Hayate, which of course I didn't, so they have. So here they are, three kits from Arma, and I'm going to specifically do a quick snip on this one for you in the coming minutes, with news about the other two along the way. So excuse me, first a word about objectivity. So this comes up all the time, I've seen it so many times over and over and again, ad nauseam, in forums, on Facebook, everywhere you go with modelling. There seems to be this overriding opinion from those who are not model kit or supply reviewers, that of course reviewers don't tell the truth, because particularly in the case of this, I have directly been sent these kits by Arma Hobby. There's no middleman, so the assumption is from these people that I will now sing the praises of these kits on the basis that if I do not, I will not get any more free kits. So first and foremost, from my point of view, and I'm only speaking for myself, that is utter balls. I don't depend on Arma sending me a couple of 1/72 kits to get my kicks, alright? It's very nice to be recognised, and I really appreciate them doing it. But no, if they were bad I would say so. I think in this case, to be honest, the kits speak for themselves anyway, but yeah, I don't agree with it. I never have. I've been a reviewer for quite a long time, magazine reviewer that is, and I don't believe that there's anything to be gained from telling untruths about a product. But enough said. For right here, right now, you can take it from me that if I review a product on this channel or anywhere else that you might see me, I'm going to say what I see. End of story. Alright? If you don't believe me, that's fine, everyone's entitled to their opinion, but you might be better off watching some of the other channels. But anyway, let's get to this. So first, just a very, very quick word on this one. So this is the newer, or the latest release. I think they're now bringing out a Royal Air Force boxing as well, or a Commonwealth boxing, but this one is the same. I'm not going to go in here. If you want to see what's in this kit, then look out my P51B review video. If I remember, I'll link it below. It's exactly the same parts. The difference is in the decal schemes included. This rather beautiful, and I mean that's about as alluring as box art gets, right? French polished natural metal version, and then 3 Americans, with a good variation of schemes there. So this is the same kit, the P51B/C, with the 2 types of cowl, but this one is deliberately aimed at the photo reconnaissance version, and you may recall that there are the parts in the original kit to cover this. So same plastic parts, so there's no need to go into getting this one out. I am though going to do a giveaway on this video, and this will be the prize, so watch to the end and I'll let you know how to go about winning this kit. So, Hayate. This is the basic version, and this is the expert set. So this is the one I'm going to actually review. And again, the difference between the two, the plastic parts are exactly the same. The expert set contains masks, photo etch, brass and multiple decal schemes. This one does not contain photo etch or masks, and it has only 2 decal schemes, and for that reason is slightly cheaper. The plastic parts, however, are exactly the same. So let's get into this one. Nakajima Ki-84 Hayate. That is probably not the way the Japanese say it. The translation for Hayate is hurricane. So this is Japan's hurricane. Everything's inside one bag when you take it out. You do still have the end opening boxes, but they are at least somewhat sturdy, unlike Revel ones. And a peely bag. I have had a very quick look at this, but I do like to do these kind of off the cuff, so you over there. Now, straight away, looking at this, there's one and a bit sprues. That's it. A modern, high-tech 72nd scale kit, and yet it's only 1 and a bit sprues. Is there a parts count on the box? There is not. But this taps into what I said about the P51 instantly. This brand, for my money, are the only ones who've managed to hit the Tamiya nail on the head. These kits are beautifully detailed whilst remaining simple and easy to build. They just are. So, now then, you've got that same nice sort of smooth but not shiny finish, the same crisp recessed surface detail throughout. There is rivet detail, but it is not across the whole airframe, okay? If I bring up that lower wing portion, for example, there's quite a lot of sort of fastener and rivety style detail there, but it isn't across the entire airframe. Some people don't prefer that approach. That's up to them. I personally do, because rivets are not they're not a prominent feature of real aircraft unless they are raised rivets, which they're not on this aircraft. So it's really quite right that they're not super prominent on a kit. We do have some plastic hinges present and correct in the inside of the fuselage there, but they're not anywhere that's going to be a problem. We've got moulded in detail for wheelbase there. Everything is pretty much exactly what you would expect from Arma. I'll just show you the engine parts and cockpit floor. Really, really top notch moulded in crisp detail. It's just, this is about as good as it gets anywhere, honestly. Right down to small sort of controls for inside the cockpit there. The push rod tubes for the engine. The bank engine cylinder banks, you know, it's all there. The instrument panel just has very simple sort of circular dial detail on it, but I'm sure there is a decal for it. So that's the main sprue. As you can see, everything's there, all present correct, and then the smaller one literally just has the tail planes and some bombs, a couple of aerials and whatnot. And again, this beautiful sort of satin slight texture finish, it's almost like a sort of bead blasted finish, is reserved for the main airframe components. You can see here that the bombs are shiny like normal, but the pieces that you have to, you know, the main airframe parts have all got this wonderful smooth but not shiny finish on them, which I really like. So that's the main sprues, nice and easy. Transparency wise, just one piece for each area. Windscreen, the rear part and the sliding part, and then we've got, that looks like a wing leading edge landing light. Bring them up for you. They're spot on. The transparencies in these kits are absolutely lovely. The framing is slightly heavy. It's more in the Airfix camp than the Tamiya one. But it's not bad enough to be an issue. Get back in there. Right then, instructions and stuffs. So, there's your decals, there's your brass. Let's quickly look at those. So, masks in the newer releases have been hashtag upgraded to the kabuki tape style. I'm not disappointed by this. I do think this is, generally speaking, better than the film, but they did do a very good job with their film. There you go. Wheels, canopies, landing light as well. They did do a very good job with their film masks in the Mustang. They work perfectly. Then the photo etched fret is, it's a wiring harness for the engine, some lap straps, a couple of handles for in the cockpit, and a pair of sort of radiator or cooling grills. Simple, but what you need is there. Let's pop these back in here. So the instructions again, standard. If you've had any other Arma kit already, you'll have seen these. A5 in colour. Paint callouts are Hataka, AK Real Colour, Mr. Paint, which is nice, Ammo, Mr. Colour, Vallejo and Tamiya Acrylic. Right across the board. A little parts map here, very tiny, and a decal map as well. Small bit of history up here. Codename Frank. And let's get into it. So, construction begins with the cockpit. Age old phrase for reviewing purposes, but it does. There is indeed a decal for the instrument panel and some of the other areas inside, which is nice. In this scale, and particularly with a closed canopy, I don't think you really need any more than a decent decal, really. Seats and everything else. What do they want you to do here? Painting option 1, drill hole from the inside and fill in from the outside. Really know what they mean by that, to be honest with you. Here's your engine. 2-cylinder bank, some photo etch and a bit of crankcasage. Colours all called out, and this shows you how to thread all that ignition harness into place. Fuselages together, wings together, and in common with, again with the Mustang, we've got full span top and bottom wing parts. And as quick as that, it all goes together. So your photo etch faces will go in there. Airframe's done. Quite a lot of options surrounding the canopy parts here. Painting option 1. Remaining painting options. What I would say, from my experience with the Mustang, and it's one of the very few slightly negative points about that kit, is please do fully read and digest these instructions before you get on with it, because as you may recall, I got caught out by that aerial at the end of the build because I didn't, well I did, I just didn't spot what I needed to see. So, you know, read these and take them in. And then final pieces, cowl flaps, bombs and tanks if you want them. Easy peasy. So painting options or markings. This one, 104th Sentai in 1945, so that's the sort of pretty much standard green over grey scheme, but with some quite colourful touches, quite a bit of yellow and some quite colourful sort of national markings and things. More of the same, but with less colourful additions. That one is 11 Sentai, Philippines. This one, natural metal. And it's got a touch of H. What's H? Light grey green on the rudder for some reason, and indeed the other fabric surfaces, so that must be just some sort of fabric, bare fabric dope or something. Nice red spinner and some colourful markings. And guess what, guys, I'm going to build this kit, and yes, I am going to do this one because I'm obsessed with foiling things, and I think this will make a nice step up in difficulty from the last couple of projects I've done. Then we're back to green. So there's two different sorts of green I'm noting. This one's super colourful, lots of lightning bolts and stripes and things. This is a darker green with a more like a sky underneath, and again some really colourful, quite exciting other markings going on, which makes up for the fairly boring finish otherwise. And then if you're really desperate for a challenge, you've got a natural metal aircraft, and again it features these grey-green fabric areas, and this has got some green turtle camo on it. Yeah, based at Saigon in 1944. So this could be quite interesting if you're into that kind of thing. In 72nd scale, clearly it's not going to be the easiest thing to do, but you could use blue tack worms to mark out all these chunks of green to do that. So there's the instructions. Decals, and again these are one of the few very slight negatives I thought with the P-51, and you can't tell by looking at them on the sheet, but they were just a little bit unwilling to conform. I thought I managed to get them to do it, but I had to use quite strong solutions. So you've got a second option here for these wing walks in yellow rather than red. But yeah, there's nothing really outstanding, either bad or good here. You do have Decal Lap Straps there. I ought to check if the basic kit has that as not in on the Decal sheet actually. So you've got all your, let me get a pointer, all your internal stencils and whatnot in this area. Seatbelts, as I said. In fact, we've got internal stencils repeated there as well. So in common with the Mustang, then you've got two sets of all the stencils. So if you mess one up, you've got one spare sat there ready to go. Particularly like this marking, that's very very Thunderbirds, that is, isn't it? Anywho, let's get to snipperooing, shall we, and see how this thing sellotapes together. As usual, I'll snip off the main airframe parts only, and we'll just look at how well or otherwise it goes together. So in common with the P-51, and another one of the things I did note about that, the sprue stubs are really large. In some cases, like with the fuselage parts, if I bring it up close, you can see that the attachment is on the joint face, as it is with Tamiya kits, so that the actual external area cannot be marred by the removal of this stub. But what you can do is induce a small gap if you're not careful about the way you clean the excess off. On the wing, however, the opposite is true. The sprue stub is on sort of curve of that leading edge surface. So you can see that I've snipped these off really big. I've not tried to go close to the part when I've snipped them from the frames, and that's why, because if you try to get too close with things like this, if you're not careful, you'll end up taking chunks out of the surface that you don't want chunks out of. So I leave them big until I've got it in my hand and I can get in tight and I can manipulate things a bit more easily and be a bit more careful about how I trim things out. Just a quick note then on removing these big sprue stubs, which joined to the sort of the joint face of the fuselage half. So rather than trying to cut it off from here in one go, what I always do is from the outside cut it flush that way first. Then you're only left with the part of the stub that is attached, come on camera, to that joint face, which you can then come in and do it this way. Don't do it this way. If you do it this way, there's a tendency for the nippers, because of the mechanics of the way they cut, there's an angle on the back of this blade, so as you push them shut they tend to pull on whatever it is you're cutting. So if you do it this way, there's a reasonable risk that you'll pull a piece of the fuselage away that you don't want to. So less of a risk if you go this way because the cut's a lot thinner, and snip it off. I deliberately haven't tried to be completely flush with that, but you can see that that's a very manageable amount of plastic to have to trim off with a knife as opposed to this. So I'll just show you again on this one, because I've already gone flush with that. So from the top, got to get myself all cat-handed here so you can see what I'm doing. From the top, that way, to reduce it to just what's left on the joint, and then come in from the side as best you can, because there's a piece in the way here, and snip that down so that you're just left with a nice small piece to trim with the knife. When you do trim with the knife, come at it from both ways. So I'm going that way, and I'm just letting the blade run along the joint and feeling when it hits that piece of attachment stub. But remember to always come at it from the other way as well, because no matter how good you are with a knife, there's a tendency for it to come up as it comes along. So you'll always find when you come back from the other way that you can trim a bit more off. And just keep working at it just ever so gently. Don't try to cut too much at once, because that's when you're going to make a mess, until it's pretty much there. You can tell when it's gone because you can't see any more hanging over the edge like a bit of flash. If you need to, or if you're that way inclined, you can just run over it with a little bit of a sanding stick just to make sure there's nothing there, but I don't tend to do that unless it proves to be a problem when I'm offering things up to fit. But whether it will really show, you might be able to see where that sprue stub was. Alright, here's all the main pieces. Have my glue. Let's begin assembly, shall we? So fuselage halves first. They don't have locating pegs and holes. They have little tabs and little slots which are not directly next door to each other, which just will help align the parts quite nicely. This has come straight from me cutting the parts and just trimming the sprue stubs with a knife. I've not sanded anything, I've done any other parts prep other than that. Goodness me. Stop working off the camera. So just behind the tail wheel aperture, it's going to be a challenge for this to be visible via focus, but if you can see, there is a tiny gap, like a little slit. That is what I'm talking about when I say that the cleaning up of those sprue stubs is so important and so difficult in a way, because that gap there is being induced purely by me being cat-handed removing those stubs. The rest of it, however, is absolutely spot. You can't see that because it's under the tape, but it is absolutely spot on. And the camera's not playing either, is it? There you go, look at that. It's virtually invisible without any glue or anything. So there's that piece. Let's pop these wings together. I'm like Jennifer tape fingers here. tape hands. It had an audible click there, I'm not sure why. What was clicking? It's gone now, okay. I'm talking to myself a bit, I apologise. Alright, a couple of things here. There is a tiny bit of flash on this wingtip, and you can just see how that sticks out. Not remotely bothered because it will get trimmed off when the seam is sanded, but look how thin that trailing edge is. Right out the gate. It's fantastic. Here, I think one could be forgiven for thinking there's an issue. If you look at the trailing edge of that flap, it looks like it's not aligned correctly. But then again, if you look just towards the sort of outboard end, you can see there's a deliberate little cutaway. So I think that's deliberate, and I think that maybe the trailing edge flaps are, yeah, they're split flaps, and they probably do overhang slightly on the real thing. I'm not inclined to think that that's an error at this point. Alright, so yeah, I think no issues here. Come on, camera. Wakey wakey, there we go. Even down to the fact that the cannon or the gun holes, apertures, mounting points, whatever, are actually circular, which is quite rare, you know. Normally they aren't. I'm always re-drilling them because of that. Oh, my voice is going, my apologies. Right. Let's see what happens when we try and join these together. Do I need to cut those off? I think I do. Let me look at the instructions a minute. Alright, it's not super obvious from the instructions. It's difficult to see or to confirm one way or the other. But these pieces here, which are quite useful as spacers, will not allow the wing to fit. They do need to come off. They're not shown on the construction diagrams, although they do seem to be obviously supposed to be there. That was bad England, but if they're left in, they don't allow that wing to sit up at the front. So I'm just going to unceremoniously snipper them away. They may still interfere a bit, but yeah, there we go. I'm not even convinced I need to say any words at this point. If that fit isn't good enough for you, then I don't know what is. And remember, this is without any preparation other than roughly cutting off the sprue stubs. And obviously the application of actual glue does help to hold things in alignment properly, much more so than tape does. But if I just hold that up with my finger, just with light, try and angle this so you can actually see. There's your lead-in sort of root gap, if you like, and then tiny bit of pressure, it's gone. Cool, so there we go, that's wing fuselage, that's all awesome. Let's test the mixture with this insert for the transparencies. Now, this model has got what I've taken to calling a little bit of edge flash. Now, in common with most more modern kits, a lot of the mould seams run along the corners of edges, such as along the corner of this sort of flat top to this cockpit aperture, and there is a little bit, so just get my pointer, my tweezer, just here. And if I don't trim that off, it results in a very slight weirdness to that joint, which I don't think is going to show up on camera. Yeah, you can see how the sort of panel gap appears to disappear, and that's because of that little bit of flash just there. I can just trim it lightly with the knife, but I prefer with things like this to just carefully sand them with a sanding board or sanding stick, you know, this kind of thing, not wet and dry. Or a file, you could use a file actually, just to get that surface flat and level. It's really easy with the scalpel to induce all kinds of, it's hard to cut a straight line with the scalpel there, that's what I'm trying to get my way around to saying with all the waffle. There we go. That's better. If you glue that with the tiniest bit of extra thin and you're careful and you don't get anything squeezing out, there's not really anything to differentiate that from any of the other panel lines. Alright, so I just balled it up. I got a phone call, answered it obviously off camera, came back, did a piece to camera, put the rest of these pieces on, except I thought I'd pressed record, but I actually didn't, so I then recorded myself putting all the rest of the bits back in the box, which is really useful. But suffice to say, everything continued to fit. So this tail plane is held in purely by friction into its slot just. The other one is taped, as you can see. So there's an infill panel in the top. If I come up, you can see along the panel line there, indistinguishable really from any other panel line again. The one in the bottom does fit, but needed a bit more wiggling, and that is because I haven't cleaned up the sprue stubs well enough actually. Just from that basic cleanup it needs a little bit more work. And then again, as you can see, that front part of the cowl is just nestling on there beautifully. So excuse me, in fact I'm going to just nip this off quickly to show you how it aligns, because it's quite nicely done. Truthfully, I don't think the video camera focused very well last time either. So hopefully you can see that the rear edge of this front cowl part's got a little step and a rim all the way around it, so that when you offer it up, bearing in mind that this is 4 separate pieces, it kind of self-jigs and it just pops in and everything is tickety-boo. It also, this slot, this tab here forms the bottom of that duct on the inside, which you can't see because it's in shadow, but yes, in summary, this thing fits together. It isn't perfect with the tape, it isn't perfect with the slight lack of prep, but truthfully I think it would be very wrong of me to denigrate any kit for not fitting together 100% perfectly without the expected amount of parts preparation, or in fact glue, because just the act of gluing things so that they're held together in their entirety and properly can make a difference in a fit, and in a couple of these places I think it will, particularly this cockpit infill. But even without that, you can see with your eyes that this isn't going to be a big effort. Yeah, I think it's great. I am going to build this. I'm going to build it and I'm going to cover it in foil because I'm predictable. I'm going to do this one. Now, if you guys would like to see that as a build series, then by all means drop me a comment and tell me, because my feeling is that with it being so similar in so many ways to the P-51 that I just did, that perhaps it wouldn't be considered interesting or whatever. But you know, if you want to see it, let me know, and by all means I'll do a video series on it. So to get around to the giveaway for this video, this kit here. So as I said at the beginning, Arma Hobby sent me these 3 kits. They didn't cost me anything. So this one, I've already built a P-51, I don't need to build another one, so I'm going to give this away to you guys. If you want to win this kit, F-16 Mustang, drop me a comment. So write me a comment down there, tell me you'd like to win it. But you know, don't just go, oh, I want to win the Mustang. You know, put a little bit of effort into it. You know, tell me a joke, say something nice, whatever. And I'll pick one of those comments, and the person I pick will get this very kit, and of course, wait for it, a Genesis sticker in the post free of charge, hopefully to their great enjoyment. The other free kit, the basic, I put this all away already so it's not where it should be. This one, the basic Hayate, the sticker, will also be given away in a separate video. I'm going to do a Book of Genesis video on basic tools, featuring this absurdly cheap Amazon basic modelling tool set. So the basic modelling tool set, the beginner friendly Hayate kit and a sticker will be going to somebody from that video. So keep an eye out for that Book of Genesis video coming soon, featuring basic tools with a giveaway for that basic Hayate. So yeah, there it is. Arma Hobby's Nakajima Ki-84 Hayate. It's a beautiful, beautiful kit. I hope I've proved that for you. There wasn't any messing around going in the background. I've not finagled any of this. Snipped the parts off, done basic parts prep, taped it together. What you see is what you get, which is very much the way this channel rolls and always will. I want to thank Greg and the guys at Arma for sending these kits over. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate their recognition of my work and my channel in such a way. And I'm going to pass that on to you guys by giving 2 of them away, as you've seen. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope to see you at the next one. Let me know if you want to see this build. So it only remains for me now to say thanks for watching. Look after yourselves. Look after each other. Genesis out.